Star-Spangled Banner, God Bless America. Oh, man, I was singing right along with my American friends. It was great.
Well, we have some fun facts for you this 4th of July. The 4th of July in the U.S. is the biggest hot dog holiday of the year, when more than 155 million hot dogs are consumed.
Wow. And
it's a lot of ketchup.
That's a lot of ketchup, a lot of mustard. You know that Americans import more than $308 million worth of fireworks every July 4th. That's according to NBC News. And on July 4th, 11,000 people end up in the emergency ward. Yeah, this is going back to 2016. And I can kind of imagine, because I was one of those guys, they would have the firecracker in their hand and set it on, and then let it go off and end up in emergency ward. So I see exactly why that happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of emergency situations, our guests today encountered an emergency situation, a struggle in their marriage, but have some great tips for overcoming. Reginald and Renee Morris, your guests today, help us to resurrect our dead marriages.
Yeah, you're going to love these folks. Got a great story. And we also have best-selling Bible study author Beth Moore. And she released her first work of fiction. It's a great summer read. And we'll share how you can get your copy a little bit later on. And Maggie, you created a bit of a book club. Some ladies came together to discuss the undoing of St. Sylvanus. And we're going to have a listen to that conversation right now.
Are there other characters in the book that really spoke to us?
Well, you have this very well put together Olivia.
Yes.
Who,
Julian's grandmother.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who has to look perfect all the time. And I liked this character because in church, we have this persona sometimes that we put on where we look perfect, act perfect, you know, and it really, so Olivia goes through a bit of a transformation and realizes that she needs to be a little bit more real. And this book kind of showcases the reality of, you know, I mean, we all have issues, we all have brokenness, we have all done crazy, stupid things, and this book kind of takes you through, it's a nice real book. And Olivia goes through this transformation of coming to a bit of reality and being able to accept and love people in the state that they're in. And it's a good reflection on, I think, how we need to be as Christians and, you know, we're in the world, but to love the world. And I shouldn't say anything.
We're trying not to give it away.
So on the Olivia note, if I'm going to be really, really honest, I had my professional hat on with her.
And remind us what you do.
So I'm a psychotherapist. So I kind of have the privilege of walking with people in broken, you know, seasons of life, and you're rooting for them. You're rooting for them to, in some ways, get to the end of themselves and break, or just find that place, the courage, the healing. And so for me, as I read the book, I was just rooting for Olivia to just come to, you know, the end of herself, or just hit that wall or whatever. So I found myself lots of ups and downs, and you know, and is this, it was a very, it just pulled a lot of emotions out of me. I found, and if I'm honest, it's because I was wearing that professional, you know, you need to address this issue, you know.
So for all the psychotherapists out there, this might be a really good book for you.
She's analyzing us right now. It's summer. What a perfect time to enjoy reading an exciting new novel from a very familiar name, New York Times bestselling author and Bible teacher Beth Moore.
The undoing of St. Sylvanus is a story about, well, that's for me to know and for you to find out.
This special book will take your imagination on a summer vacation to New Orleans, where a wily house manager and a cast of saints and sinners bond together to expose the forces that took the life of the father, while daughter Jillian walks a web of spiritual and personal danger. It's a riveting fictional story you'll enjoy. Quantities are limited, so call today to request your personal copy. 1-800-265-3100, or visit crossroads.ca/donate. And thank you for giving to 100 Huntley Street this month. And I'd love to encourage you to request your copy of this great new Beth Moore book as part of your summer reading. You can help to strengthen this program with your suggested gift of $45 or more, and we would be pleased to send you this book as a thank you. It's a great read. I had so much fun sitting down with those ladies and just really pouring through this book and hearing different perspectives on the characters, on the storyline. So I'd encourage you, get a couple of your friends together, maybe start your own book club. Order this book as soon as you can so that you can journey with us through the rest of the month as we go through the undoing of Saint Sylvanus. Well, up next, for better or for worse, marriages can be challenging but rewarding. With some practical tips to strengthen marriages, here's Greg with his guests.
Is your marriage over and you're not ready for it to be over? Has your spouse already left and moved on and found a new love? Do you need God's immediate intervention to save your marriage? Well, if you answered yes to any of those questions, or maybe you know somebody that's in a marriage that looks like it's beyond repair, then you'll want to pay close attention to my next guest as what they have to share. It's an amazing story. Dr. Reginald and Renee Morris resurrected their dead marriage. Guys, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having us.
And a little background here. We tried to get you here before weather. Then you almost had another problem getting here this time. So I think that you're supposed to be here.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, we had to fight through that.
We agree.
Yeah, and I mean, you guys are obviously fighters because you have saved your marriage. So Renee, let's go back. You're married to this guy 30 years. He's a pastor. You got 4 adult kids. And then you come to him one day and said, that's it. I want a divorce. What was going on?
So I had a lot of issues that I had not resolved. And I just felt that the best thing for me would be to just depart. And it wasn't the best decision, but that was the choice I made. And I started walking down that path.
Now, as a person that grew up knowing the Bible, you grew up in a Christian home, you knew that divorce wasn't the right way to go. You had made your vows till death do you part. So how are you resolving that in your mind?
So because I was fallen into a state where I was not listening to the Lord, I wasn't thinking about that. Sure, my husband and I got married. We were just like most other couples. We didn't think things would be different after we got married. We thought it'd be the same as when we were dating. We'd stay in love. Things would be great. We said we'd never use the D word. But I found myself not just saying it, but actually starting to go down that path. And I was spiritually immature. I was walking in fear. I was frustrated. I was upset. And I was just looking for a way out.
So, Reggie, when she came to you and said, that's it, we're done, I want a divorce, must have been like you got hit with a sledgehammer over the head.
I didn't believe her at first. I mean, when she said it, I was, well, you know, we had already separated 3 other times. So, okay, well, let's see where this goes, kind of thing. So, you know, it was when she actually moved out, that's when it really, that's when the bricks hit me. And then it was like, oh, she's serious.
So you maybe thought she was just trying to get your attention then?
Well, I thought she was trying to get my attention. I thought there was a message there somewhere. I just have to dig a little deeper. Maybe there's some adjustment I could make that she's really trying. I had a lot of 1,000 thoughts going through my head at the time. But literally when she and some movers came to pick up the furniture, I think that kind of crystallized it for me.
So you're a pastor. And, you know, you guys have gone to marriage conferences like the rest of us have.
Absolutely.
So what were you thinking at this time, Reggie? You were thinking, well, what have I done? What have I not done or whatever to contribute to this?
Yeah, I actually did this self-reflection that most people go through. You know, what is it that I did wrong? Immediately you start going down that path and you drive this. Then, of course, then there's this anger that builds up. Well, you know, it's really her, she really did this and this. So you got both sides kind of warring with yourself going on here. But at the end, you know, she's gone. And so then I began to try thinking about, okay, where did we go for next? Because she was asking me for a divorce.
Not going to counseling at this point.
I actually proposed that. She said, it's too late for that. That was her exact answer. Then she was saying, I want a divorce, you got to give me a divorce. And this thought popped into my head. Why are you asking me for a divorce? If you want a divorce, fine. That's your decision. But then the thought came to me was, did I have a decision to make? Because so often when divorce comes up between a couple and one person says they want a divorce, the other person feels as if they have no choice. And that's what I started to feel as. But the Lord said, wait a second, you have a choice to make. And that's when everything changed.
Okay, we're going to take a break because I want to find out what that choice was and then how you responded to what he was telling you. You weren't all that pleased, were you? We'll take a break and back with the Morrises right after this.
Well, God gave me a car, and when I had that car, that was it. I was going to Huntley Street. And God gave me a car because I had an opportunity to come here and witness and do what my mother did. I had a call the other day from a man in New York who wanted to rededicate his life to Jesus. What a privilege. Every time you pick up the phone, you're talking to Jesus. Prayer is everything. Prayer is my passion. It's what I live for. It's what I do all day in small episodes or big episodes. And I can testify that God never fails.
My guests are Dr. Reginald and Renee Morris. The book is called Resurrect Your Dead Marriage. You can get it from our e-store. The information is on the screen. So, Reggie, you make a decision. What was that decision?
I said no. It was simple as this, is that when I asked her to marry me, she came into a bond with me. That bond then became between me, her, and God. And so she needed my release. Spiritually, she needed my release. And so I understood. I wasn't trying to be belligerent or any other thing. It's just that's not what I wanted to do. I didn't enter in this marriage to end it. There was a lot that we had built up to this point. We had children and we had grandchildren, and I saw a future that the Lord had shared with us, and this seemed contrary to that. So my only answer to her was no.
And how did you respond to that, Renee?
I was not happy.
Okay.
Because, again, I had made a determination in my mind that I was going a certain way, and I felt like he was standing in the way of my life being able to go on.
What did you see that life being at that point? Because again, you got kids, grandchildren.
I just saw myself free.
Okay.
Though I was in bondage. Again, I was deceived. And I thought leaving him would mean I could be free. And he could open up a whole world of possibilities for me.
How did he communicate that he was not done with the marriage? Because as you said, you were not happy.
Well, I would call him from time to time, asking him when he was going to sign the papers. When was he going to stop being stubborn? And he would basically tell me, as I said before, you can do whatever you want to do, but I'm not changing my mind.
So the movie The War Room, and for those that haven't seen it, it's a great movie. It's about prayer. Tell me how that impacted you.
Well, it gave me, it actually gave me a process of prayer. It showed me that when we take God at His word and we connect with it, we can get His word activated in our lives. And I literally turned her closet, the one that she vacated, into my war room. And in it was all our pictures from the years through the years, our kids, and I just started making lists that would come up in my heart about the life we had and the life that I saw going forward. And then when the Lord would tell me things about her life and what was happening, I would write lists, put them up on the wall, and I just pray over them.
And revealed some of the things that maybe she was upset with you as well.
Yeah, some of that was revealed to me. The Lord began to talk to me about me. He always starts with you. I mean, that's just...
It's consistent that way.
He starts with you. These are the things you could have done differently. The other thing He says, I am never going to talk to you about her. Okay, I'm going to talk to you about you. So the conversation always dealt with Him sharing with me about the man I could be and the man I need to be in order to have the marriage we always wanted to be.
Did you know he was praying? And I guess the second part of that, was there a change in him that maybe you think, oh, maybe this guy is worth getting back together with?
So the interesting thing about this is he has never been a bad person. He's a great father. He was someone who I looked up to. He took care of me.
Yeah, there's no abuse in the relationship.
There was nothing like that. But what happened is he shielded me from a lot of things, and I developed deficiencies as a result of that. I was spiritually immature, and I was unable to bear the weight of the temptations that I was facing. And so part of what we have done as a change now is we consider ourselves to be fully present with each other whenever we are together. And part of that means we have to tell each other what we're thinking, what we're feeling. We have to share in ways that we had not done that before, because he was my rock. He was the one who was bearing it all on his own.
Now, let's not put me up on too big a pedestal, because there were things that, maybe she may have known, some things she didn't know about, that, every person has, okay? We reveal those things to the Lord, and they're supposed to stay there. And the Lord was revealing me that those things actually had a line to why this was the way it turned out. Everything that you do, everything that you say, every seed that you sow does come back to bear fruit. And that's what was happening there was some seeds that I had sown that I did not take care of that brought the door open for her. Now, what she decided to do with the door open, those are her choices alone.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's be clear on that part. But I had just as much to do with this as she did.
I know, we're just running out of time here. I know that you worked on your relationship with the Lord and then got back together. You built a love bridge through prayer, refiring that passion for this beautiful lady. But in our remaining time, and again, I would encourage you to get this book. All pastors, you need to have this on your bookshelf. I know someone I'm going to give this book to because it's important. I've had the restoration in my own marriage. But for those people that are watching this program right now, that are where you guys were in, or maybe even in worse situation, or thinking about divorce, you just look into our camera and just encourage them.
The answer to all of this is God's love. My husband was an interceder for me that brought me back to God first and then to Him. And I encourage you, if you are dealing with any kind of issue, you have to rely on the Lord, because without Him, we cannot do anything.
And let me just say, I don't know what your situation is. You may be overcoming adultery in your spouse. You might be overcoming a number of things. We had to overcome that as well. There's much to our story we didn't get a chance to share. But I'll share this. The love of God is so deep, so wide, that it is impactful no matter what you're facing. And His redemptive work is available to you, and it's available right now. So what He did in us, He'll do for you.
Thank you guys for sharing your story. Again, you're right. There's so much more. Got to get the book, Resurrect Your Dead Marriage. And the Morrises, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you for
us.
having us.
And again, the prayer line, 1-866-273-4444. If that is what you're struggling today with your marriage, whatever it is, please call now. We'll have more right after this.
Our hands, hands that work, hands that provide, hands that create, hands that comfort. Our hands, the image of His hands. His hands broke bread, washed feet, touched the blind, made them see. His hands stretched out to the world, saying, "Come to me." Together, we are His hands. Hands that are there for others, held open in an ever-willing embrace. Together, we serve, releasing and giving away, shining light on those who need the light, not pointing at our own reflection, but directing it to His perfection. Bringing change, bringing life, bringing hope and healing. These are the hands we possess. The hands of Jesus. And together, we serve.
What does it mean to be human? Oftentimes we think this is an obvious question, but really when you sit down and think about it and you see the competing answers to this question in culture, it becomes a little bit on the confusing side. There are those who have divorced us from any idea of being made in God's image, as if human beings are actually special in some way. They say either one of two things. Either we're just sophisticated chimps that sort of rose up through the evolutionary ranks because our genes happen to be here, because our ancestors happen to compete better for resources than other sorts of animals. Others would say that we're just sophisticated chemical machines. You know, we're made up of a certain kind of chemical makeup. And so I believe what I believe, not based on the truth of the matter, but based on the way my chemicals react to certain stimuli, much like a Venus flytrap closing, not because it wants to get the bug, but because the bug happens to be there and the chemicals cause it to close. In other words, we just react, either by animal instinct or by chemical makeup. But ask yourself this question. Can you even ask yourself questions like, what does it mean to be human? If you're just a chemical machine or a sophisticated chimp, do you and I have any sort of dignity whatsoever in that kind of a system? Do your moral choices actually matter? Is there anything to you that actually is praiseworthy or blameworthy? Can we actually have crimes that are actually morally wrong? Can atrocities like the Holocaust actually be atrocities? Could they be atrocious if the Nazis just responded to chemical stimuli, or they're a certain kind of chimp that happened to be sophisticated in a certain kind of way, and the Allies happen to be a certain other kind of way? You see, the problem here is that when you reduce humans to either sophisticated monkeys or complicated chemical machines, all sense of what it means to be human, the very moral fabric of what we are, is suddenly dissolved. It all goes away. In fact, you see people like Sam Harris, for example. Sam Harris is a neuroscientist and a bit of a philosopher, and he's a very popular and vocal atheist. He, in his book called Free Will, argues that human beings have no free will. Why? Because we're chemical machines that react to external stimuli. And so he actually argues, and he says that we should be able to see that people aren't actually morally blameworthy for their behavior as opposed to people who are in need of chemical treatment. In other words, we can chemically alter them so that their behavior is better. We don't punish them, we just sort of treat them, chemically that is. But you see what happens there, of course. The moral indignity that's visited upon somebody by a crime is lost. The moral culpability of that crime itself is lost. The moral praiseworthiness of wanting to treat somebody who exhibits criminal behavior, that itself is lost. And so the question becomes this: do any of our endeavors actually have any real meaning? Does Sam Harris, as someone who is a scientist who wants to see the betterment of humanity, does he want that because he exercises his free will? Does he freely choose to help other people? Is his choice to help other people moral? Or is it just chemical reactions? In other words, did he choose, with his own free will, to write his book called Free Will? And you can see that the Bible actually stands against these things when it says, yes, we have a physical nature to us, and there is something about us that is intensely physical, which is why our bodies are resurrected. But there's also a spiritual element to us that isn't a slave to chemical reactions, that isn't a slave to instincts. Chimps don't murder other chimps in the wild, but human beings do murder each other. But human beings also sacrifice for one another. It's a moral action. And why is it a moral action? Not because of the chemicals in your brain, but because of the spirit within you that can guide and sometimes be influenced by those chemicals in your brain, but ultimately can transcend those things. That's the right and the wrong. That's what God has given to each one of us, a free will that affects the physical world around us.
Wow, thank you very much, Abdu. You know, he works, of course, with Ravi Zacharias Ministries, Ravi being one of my favorite apologists, I like to listen to. And when Ravi talks about, you know, the proof of God is, where does morality come from? How do we know right from wrong? And if you just think you're just some chemicals, you know, where did we come up with that? So, again, I think, you know, before I became a Christian, my value system was different than it is now. I care about the unborn. I care about, you know, those that are aged and, you know, with the euthanasia, those kinds of things, because God's put that in me, and I've discovered that through His Word.
Yeah, I was just going to point to you as an example, because I think of your passion for the persecuted church. I think about all of your travel. If you are just this chemically created robot, then where does that empathy come from? Where does that passion for the fact that you want us to know about these atrocities around the world? It comes from a soul. It comes from deep within. It comes from a heart that cares. And those things were created by God.
And absolutely. And, you know, and I, you know, think that the way I think now to the way I used to think before I came to know Jesus and a relationship with Him are very different. Because, you know, as you know, we progress along in our relationship with Him, is we do care more. We do have compassion. And that's not to say that people that don't know Jesus don't have compassion, because there's many people that do. But we are informed because of what we know, what the Bible tells us.
Yeah, and I think it's a great reminder that God has a purpose for us. And I think sometimes when we dismiss ourselves or our beings, that's because we don't want to face the purpose that we actually have. And so you have a purpose. God has created you for a reason. Tomorrow's show, really important topic. If you have ever struggled with infertility, if you have friends who have struggled with infertility, it is a show you're going to want to watch, you're going to want to share, you're going to want to PVR or DVR and share with your friends.
And we just love to tell stories on this program. The Morrises, their marriage resurrected. If you have a story, we'd love to hear from you. Get a hold of us at 100huntley.com. Click on the little button there, and you know, maybe you'll be interviewed by Maggie John.
Who knows? Have a great day.
See ya.
Bye. Happy 4th of July.
Yeah, happy 4th.
Thank you for your ongoing support of Crossroads, a member of the Canadian Council of Christian Charities. You can write to Crossroads, P.O. Box 50.